Welcome to SportsSkope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation. Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope on this second day of September. Got a lot of college football to touch on. Also, going to talk about the NFC South and the NFC East breakdowns, predictions for those divisions. Stand by. We'll take our first and only break, and I'll be back here shortly on the Real Sports Scope, and we'll hit the ground running. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports and host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. You're watching the sharp-dressed man and the big story breaker, Robert Butler, on SportsSkope, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on National Streaming Sports. Thanks. National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by BetUs.com, designed for true fans. NFL odds, Week 1 and futures, college football odds, including Heisman Trophy favorites, and playoff odds, NBA odds of division winners and playoffs, Major League Baseball playoff and World Series odds, the National Hockey League Conference playoffs and Stanley Cup odds, and boxing wagers. Betting opportunities include versus the spreads and outright winners, also during the game. Use our link on our website, nessp.info, the Bet Us Opportunities webpage, for a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. Must be 21 years old, and remember, bet responsibly.
Alrighty then, folks. I'm back here live. I just did get in the nick of time. I worked till about 6:25 and drove here, threw the suit on. Very unorthodox day for me here on the Real Sports Scope. But we'll get right to it, okay? Great weekend, in my opinion, of college football. Very good weekend. Good structure of the games. You want to have a game, in my opinion, 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Central, or Eastern time, excuse me. Then you want to have the 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central game for your second game. Then you want to have the 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern on the night game. You don't want games overlapping each other. I know some of the 3:30 games Eastern times did overlap, but you definitely don't want the night games overlapping each other. And I thought the networks did a very good job spreading those out accordingly. Of course, I know that there's certain weeks where you've got games that are just it's just the way the schedule falls. You're going to have that problem, but hopefully they will keep it kind of like they did today or this particular Labor Day weekend. Okay, now in order, college football notes. I gave this to myself. Clemson, Georgia. A lot of talk about Clemson's lack of offense, but nobody seemed open all day, folks. In my opinion, any Clemson Tigers simply did not seem open all day. A lot of people aren't really talking about the fact that this Georgia team, they were second nationally in defense last year in points allowed, second nationally, not in the SEC, not in the SEC, the year before that, and they were first. They were first back in 2021. I'll say this. They are the most consistent high-level defense, one or two nationally, from a year-to-year basis that I've ever seen. Now, not just 1 year. I thought that defense for probably that 01 team, we talked about that before just a few weeks ago on this program, the 01 Hurricane team. That was probably the best 1 year team I've ever seen. But just week in and week out, Georgia, going back to 2021, first, second, and second. That's not even counting this 2024 season. I'm really impressed with what Kirby start. Think about the fact that you've got NIL, you've got transfer portal. You know that teams are using. This might not be legal or even ethical. If it was legal, recruiting players away from current teams using NIL, transfer portal, and they're still being able to have this level of defense. I'm really, really impressed with Georgia, what Kirby Smart has done. And as far as Dabo Swinney is concerned, you've got to let this season play out. I do think that they are on a downward spiral. He is not really embracing it. It was just a 6-point game, though, at halftime, folks. I mean, but he has got to look in the mirror and he's got to embrace these sort of things, or the fans are going to ask for him. I mean, ask for him the team to move on. It's hard to say that when a guy just a few years ago won a national championship, making this team relevant again. 17 years. I think a change could do him good. I think he should change his outlook on football, maybe give the NFL a try. But they are no longer a dominant program. But that being said, the story, in my opinion, is more about the consistency of Georgia rather than the fall off of Clemson. In my opinion, nobody's looking at this level of consistent defense from the Georgia Bulldogs. Okay, good win. 34-3. All right, Miami. Great game early on. The final score won't say that. Of course, Miami pulls away. Cam Ward looked as advertised. Not a fan of the sidearm. Too much, but was calm in the pocket. That offensive line looked like you could eat off of it. That was the most impressive offensive line play I saw all weekend. I know the commentators in USC really went on and on about the high-level picks of the two tackles that are going to be high-level draft picks in that LSU game. I don't think so. I believe that Cam Ward just had a clean pocket, going through his progressions, running, throwing balls sideways, making big plays. Really impressed with what he was able to do. And then the flip side, as I predicted, I'm still standing with that. I think Billy Napier would be fired. Not sure if Deion Sanders, as I've been saying before, will be able to take this job. It depends on how Colorado fares this year. Didn't like the stuff with the media. He's making it a distraction. He should have let that be water under the bridge. Like I said, talked about with Carlos, Mad New Yorker, the other day. You've got to let that sort of thing just be again, it's just water under the bridge. It's white noise per se. White noise. Okay. And let's go to the next page. I knew I had some more stuff here. And I've got another commercial I do need to play. We'll have to take one more break because I have to get my other magazine for the NFL stuff there, folks. Anyways, college, let me look and see. All right. Hey, Notre Dame, very impressive road win there. You know, Marcus Freeman from the head coach there. You know, this guy's under 40 years old. He was hired at like 36. Thought he was over his head. Again, he reminds me of a Sean McVay of the Rams. Very young guy, only even 34 years old, hired, taking over the Rams coach. but the fact that they brought an experienced defensive coordinator like a Wade Phillips, knowing that he was not a defensive guy, not being insecure about being undermined by his coordinator. And we know what happened there. Eventually, as he's grown into that job, he's went on and win a Super Bowl. Same thing, the same impression with Marcus Freeman of Notre Dame. Adds Al Golden to run that defense. Man, no missed tackles. They were ahead of the Texas A&M all night long in a very hostile environment there, really worn down. And, of course, he going out there and bringing in guys like Riley Leonard. They've got a new offensive coordinator. Really impressed with what Freeman was able to do. Called that win there. Good job there by Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman, very much possibly as far as his approach and whatnot and talent as a coach, I'm starting to see him possibly as a Sean McVay type of coach at the collegiate level. Of course, he's got to win a national championship. McVay's already won a Super Bowl, and been to several playoff appearances. Okay, last night, now I did pick LSU. Although Mad New Yorker, I thought about it this morning. This guy picks LSU to win the East, win the SEC, but he picked USC to win last night. I think maybe because I laid out the fact that USC, Riley Leonard, I like his coaching, better of a quarterback play than the offense as a whole under Brian Kelly. They brought in Anthony Lynn to take over that defense that was dreadful every year for Lincoln Riley, going back to his Oklahoma days and whatnot. That being said, I do like the fact that what Brian Kelly said, this team simply looked like they thought the game was over with. I thought LSU had control of that game, in the about 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. They're up by 4. That was about what the point spread was. And they just lost track of focus. And it really ticked off Brian Kelly. And, of course, I totally agree with it. Listen to what he said last night, if I can get it to come up here, after the game, and blowing that lead like that. More from Brian Kelly.
And that's what I said to the team. I said, we had some guys played their butts off tonight. And we're sitting here again. Talking about the same things. About not finishing when you have an opponent in a position to put them away. But what we're doing on the sideline is feeling like the game's over. And I'm so angry about it that I got to do something about it. I'm not doing a good enough job as a coach. And I got to coach him better because it's unacceptable for us not to have found a way to win this football game. It's ridiculous. And
he hit his hand on the
and that's what I said to the team. I said,
he hit his hand on the desk there at the podium, had that water jump up as a full bottle of water. That was pretty hard there. He's going to be sore. Couldn't agree anymore. 2 excessive, unsportsmanlike penalties for LSU. One of the touchdowns in the fourth quarter, I want to say, was off of a free play because LSU was offsides. Just that they know that they're talented. They have. I've never seen a university go through so many coaches and bring in such long, talented, athletic players. And the problem with that, you have to have a coach reel them in. To reel them in, they're resting on their laurels before the game's even over with, And they have lost 5 openers at the last 5 to big opponents there at LSU. They lost twice to Florida State under Brian Kelly. I did not do my homework correct on that. I thought they won the first one, but they lost twice to Florida State. I should have caught on to that. and now they've lost to USC. Okay. He's got to tighten up there. Brian Kelly got to a national championship, I want to say, his second year against Alabama or somebody. And he went through a period at Notre Dame where he was grinding on players, and he come off as a guy that was getting very rigid and feel like he was losing his touch there. Kind of like a, what's his name? Tom Coughlin of the Jacksonville Jaguars in the pros, also of the New York Giants. And then his wife told Tom, you gotta lighten up just a little bit. Got to let him breathe just a little bit. As soon as he did, they went on and won a couple Super Bowls there. And as soon as he lightened up, he saved his job there, Brian Kelly. And then they started putting out more and more quality draft picks at Notre Dame. Then LSU comes calling. So it's like he's took his he's reeled it in too much, where he's too nice to the players. And he's seeing that with these openers when they clearly seem to be the better team. They're favored and they're getting beat, and he just lost it last night. He hits that hand on the water full as this water you see right here, and he boom, and it's like bloop, bloop. Don't have a stroke on me, coach. I like you. But I also like Lincoln Riley better. I mean, Lincoln Riley, don't want to take nothing away from USC. The guy is a great coach of quarterbacks. Man, we're talking 1, 2, 3 Heisman Trophy winners. What's his name? Miller Moss. Looked great there for USC. The key for USC is, do they have enough depth on the defensive side of the ball to sustain the level of defense that they played last night? I don't know. I don't think they will, but it was a good hire. Good call by Riley Leonard bringing in Anthony Lynn. They talked about it last night on the game. Players put on weight. They're tougher. They're finishing tackles, lower penalties. They're remaining focused. All the sloppy play was on LSU. Plus, it sounded like a home game for USC. So I felt like I probably should have looked at a little stronger. I would have picked USC if I had that to do over again. But I'm trying to balance, 2 jobs here and this program. And it's tough on me. I get a little Brian Kelly sometimes. So stand by, folks. I'm going to break down a couple of football divisions, but we got to take one more break because I got to get my magazine. It's got the rest of my notes in. And plus, I forgot to put one of our commercials on anyways. I'll be back here shortly.
To get the National Streaming Sports channel on your Roku TV, channel search National Streaming Sports. There's the channel search in Roku. There's our logo right on the right, NESSP. Tap on the logo and it will add to your TV, the channel to your TV. On your laptop, tablet, and mobile phone, download the free Roku app and channel search just like above. If you don't have Roku TV, you have to order a Roku device from the Roku store, hook it up to your smart TV, and bang, you have Roku TV. Again, channel search, National Streaming Sports, click on our NESSP logo, and add the channel. To get the National Streaming Sports channel on your Roku TV, channel search National Streaming Sports. There's the channel search in Roku.
All right, folks, here. They don't want to blow you up too much with Mac talking about the Roku TV National Sports there thing. Okay, let's go over the NFC East and the NFC South. Now, mind you, last week I went over the NFC North. I've got Detroit winning the NFC North, Green Bay second, and who was third? The Bears at third, and of course Minnesota at fourth place. Okay, all right, now Dallas. Let's go over the Cowboys. No particular order here, just the order of my Lindy's magazine. I tell you, I spent a lot of time going over these schedules, so stay tuned. You're going to get some really good stuff here. All righty then. So as of today, on the 2nd, nothing has changed. Dak Prescott's going to play on a last contract. He's going to play on an empty contract for this year. He's getting paid for his services. Kudos to Dak Prescott. I wish Detroit with Jared Goff would have done that, but they didn't. They didn't want to take any chances. They want to pay any more money. They've already got the NFC Championship game, but Dak is going to be focused like a laser beam. I'm still concerned about CeeDee Lamb being in game shape. That's my biggest concern. Nothing has came out about Michael Parsons. He's not holding out or anything. But Deron Bland's going to be out for a few games. He's got an injury there. They did lose Tyron Smith. They did lose Tyler Bladez. Michael Gallup retired. I don't know why they didn't sign back Stephon Gilmore at cornerback. So they've got 7 offensive, 8 defensive starters coming back. Also, I do think Mike Zimmer's going to be from a game-to-game basis. I do think he will be a better coordinator than Dan Quinn. They may make bigger plays under Dan Quinn, but a consistent open field tackle type of defense, I do like Mike Zimmer, the former Minnesota Vikings head coach. But anywho, Dallas really backed up against it on the salary cap. Okay, brought Zeke back, took 1 year off, brought Zeke Elliott back. So they're really kind of thin, if you know what I mean. Still got Zach Martin on that offensive line. Still got Brandon Cooks to throw to, Jake Ferguson. Dak is going to have to figure out other players to get to. I'm a little concerned these first 3-4 games of about CeeDee Lamb's health. You just hope that he doesn't pull a hamstring or anything, even if he's not productive. That would be my viewpoint on him and getting him in there. They did add Edric Kendricks there, I want to say, from Minnesota. Maybe that goes back to the Mike Zimmer. But they were this is the quietest free agency I've ever seen of the Dallas Cowboys. They have back-to-back 12-5 seasons. Do not see that this year. They opened up at Cleveland. That's going to be Tom Brady's first game, by the way, as a commentator. I'm curious to see what happens there, him and Fox. I think he's going to be pretty good because he's going to work the way he worked as a player, in my opinion. That being said, I'm not really high on Cleveland this year because they paid a lot of money. They paid a lot of money in cap hit to Deshaun Watson. I don't like the way that the contract was structured. I was one of the only few people that was okay with that contract because I wanted Cleveland's ownership, and they did that in their defense, to make a statement saying the losing Cleveland is over with. We will pay the big money. We will try to win big in this league. Even if one free agent backfires, we want the word to get out here that we will pay free agents. We're trying to win. We're just not simply trying to we're simply not trying to just sell tickets and turn a quick profit. So I do like that fact. All right, going back to Dallas's record. So I got them losing that opening game at Cleveland. They bounced back against New Orleans the next week, but they've got Baltimore in week 3 with all that talent on the defensive side of Baltimore. Mike Zimmer coached against one of the former, remember, he used to be the defensive coordinator for Cincinnati for years. He's a little familiar with John Harbaugh, but not John Harbaugh with Lamar Jackson, who I don't think has lost to an NFC team in the regular season. I don't think that guy's lost to an NFC. I mean, it's an unbelievable record he's got there. May have lost one, but man, he smoked it last year, didn't he? Really good record against NFC teams. It is in Dallas, but I do think the Ravens, the two AFC North teams, are going to beat. They're going to beat Dallas, and they're going to get Dallas off to a rough 1-2 start, in my opinion. The over and under, by the way, is 9.5 wins for the Cowboys, according to most sportsbook. Now, this one's from FanDuel, and of course, I'm sure it's BetUS. Of course, that's one of our commercials there. But my thing is, I see this team going about 9-8. I'm not sure if they're not going to make the playoffs. I have to wait because I know we got, 3 wild cards? I do not have them winning the East. I'll tell you that right now. But I'm not sure they crater. I still think that the defense will be pretty good and better in spots. May have some issues at corner because of injuries and whatnot and free agent loss. I mean, of course, they got Diggs back, but he's coming back from like an ACL or something like that. So you're not sure how good he's going to be early. And of course, they lost Stephon Gilmore. So I'm a little concerned about that. That's why I see the dip. 9-8. I have not finished out the NFC, so I'm not sure yet if you're going to put that as a playoff type of team or not. Okay, just no particular order. Moving on to the Giants here, folks. The New York Giants, Daniel Jones is on the hot seat, okay? It's put up or shut up for him. We've already seen that they try to go out and get Drake May. That came through the Hard Knocks. Of course, it was already reported before the show came out that they were trying to trade up to 3 with New England, get Drake May, only to come up a little short. I do think that there is a possibility that ownership could move on from Joe Sheehan and Coach Brian DeBall, although they didn't make the playoffs a couple years ago. This team will be a feisty team here. They're not going to be as bad as your Carlos is saying that they're going to be. I think they did make a big trade there, got Brian Burns on the defensive line. They got Malik Neighbors there. I noticed they cut some guys there. Who's Isaiah Hodges? These are guys that were making plays in that playoff game a couple years ago with Daniel Jones. So they must feel really confident in this receiving core, in your Jalen Hyatts of the world. They must really like the rookie, Malik Neighbors, who I do think is going to make an impact for Dallas, okay? Obviously, they lost Saquon Barkley, which I'm okay. I'm not as high on running backs as everybody else is. I think you can find running backs and whatnot. But we'll see. A lot of people's going to be overlooking the Giants this year. That's usually when they do their best. They played hard at the end last year, really pushing Philadelphia to the end there, 25-33 at Philadelphia. At Philadelphia there at the end of the regular season. Of course, they did beat Philadelphia 27-10, but that was a bunch of backups there. So, I got them starting off with the win, even though I don't think there's a line on that Minnesota game, folks. And they're a feisty team. They were 6-11 last year. And, they did beat Green Bay when Green Bay was playing really good football. So they're not a terrible team. They're just not as talented as Dallas have over the last few years. And they're just not as talented as Philadelphia. The roster's just not there, player for player. Again, with the coach and the general manager, I give them 50-50 that they survive. It just depends on about Mr. Mara and how this team finishes the last few games. But I do got them falling up a little short at 8-9. That's 8-9 borderline. It's going to be a coin toss that they keep their head coach and or not. Okay, Philadelphia Eagles. I was just reading something like Darius Slay don't want to go to Brazil, talking about crime or something. I read that today. And by the way, Philly sports guy who's been on the program, he's in Brazil to watch the game Friday. Probably not going to see that opening game against the Green Bay Packers on Peacock, which really annoys me. Man, that annoys me. I mean, I've got HBO because of football. I've got Netflix because of football. I've got Amazon Prime because of football. I do watch the other programs. Those are good. But now you got to get Peacock. They're killing me, Smalls. They're killing me, you know? So anyways, the Eagles, a lot of changes in the offseason for the Eagles here. Remember, they fired both the defensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator, hired Keelan Moore there. And I forgot the name of that other defensive coordinator they got over from Miami. But it's a major upgrade for the Eagles. I have liked their offseason. I just love what they're doing from Howie Roseman running the player personnel stuff there to the the ownership, even though he's a little bit of a micromanager to say the least. But Vic Fangio, I think that's going to be a good pickup there. You know, you got guys like Jalen Carter and who was the other guy there? Jordan Davis there, defensive tackle. I think that defense is going to be good. And you know, man, got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back at the safety position there. Kelly Ringo from the Georgia second-year player, they moved him up to starter at the cornerback position. So him and Deshaun Cooper there love their draft picks. Absolutely love their draft picks. Even though James Bradbury, not a terrible player, starting to lose a step, though. That secondary is going to be pretty good is what I'm trying to say. I know they lost Kels at center. Just got a lot of faith in what they're doing. From a depth standpoint, they still got 8 starters back on that offense, and they got Jahan Dotson as a third receiver. A lot of reports coming out. Keelan Moore's offense is really, really going well with the Eagles. With Hurts, I want to say he went to like 100-something passes or something. He went through several weeks without throwing an interception in practice. Not a game, but they didn't play a game. But in practice, according to beat reporters. So we'll see if that carries over. You got Saquon Barkley. They traded for third year Jahan Dotson, who's a great third or fourth receiver there. So I'm pretty high on these guys. The over and under is 10.5 wins. Now, if this team falls off and they're like 8-9 or something like that, and they don't have a flood of injuries, I will say this. They will move on from Nick Sirianni. There's just too much talent. They moved on for Doug Peterson. They won a Super Bowl with him. So there is somewhat of a hot seat with Sirianni. The Eagles, I mean, they're like, I've said this before, they're like the Alabama fan base of the NFL. They just will not accept long-term losing. They will boo anybody. They'll boo Santa Claus. But they feel justified. I love their passion. Really do. They just love football up there. I got them bouncing back. Anywhere from 13-4 to 12-5. Either way, it's going to be enough. I'll stick with the 13, but that's going to be enough for them to win the AFC East. And I say around that 12-5, 13-4. They have a stretch there right around Thanksgiving, right? On November 24th, they got to play at the Rams, at the Ravens, Carolina at home. That's not going to be a bad one. Then they got to play Pittsburgh, and then at Washington, Dallas, and the Giants. Of course, you got your in division. But that stretch there, Rams, Ravens, Steelers, that's going to put a knot on their head. You know, they're going to cause some fatigue. Even if they win 2 of them, I mean, you got to fly into the West Coast, then you got to fly to the East Coast and play one of the most physical teams in the NFL in the Baltimore Ravens. Even if Lamar Jackson's not playing, the Ravens really, really rough teams up. So I got them winning this division. At that, like I said, I'll roll with the 13-4. But still, I don't think that they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna fall off too much. Actually, I think they're gonna bounce back. Super Bowl hangover. That's what I said. I think they'll get back. I don't think the 49ers are going to get back. I haven't got my pick in yet for the NFC, but I'm getting close. I will give you my Super Bowl picks on Thursday, and of course, I'll go over it with them again on Friday with the Mad New Yorker. I'll get his picks for you. A lot of changes in Washington. Okay, the Commanders there, they got a new owner, they got a new general manager, got a new head coach there. Just new, got a new attitude, right? That they're the most transformational team. Got Dan Quinn as their head coach, again, the former defensive coordinator out of Dallas. I did like the fact that they hired Cliff Kingsbury. He's going to be able to call the defense there, the offense, the way he wants to. So they went out and got Jalen Daniels. I could see the former second overall pick, LSU player being a great fantasy player at times, and hitting a Terry McLaurin or somebody of that nature over the middle of the field or running for a big first down, doing some read option, looking a little bit like the Eagles. He's a taller player, though, than a Jalen Hurts, but also he's a thin player. I think of the Jalen Daniels that played great and really had Alabama on the ropes last year in the LSU game, but he got hurt at the very end. And I could see him getting banged up. I got that in my head that Daniels is going to get banged up at some point. They're going to be fun to watch. But there's just too many changes there on this team. They only got 6 defensive players. They moved off a lot of defensive players here coming back. Half the defense. Also moved off Curtis Samuel and Johan Dotson. Yeah, moved off Dotson. Did a in division. They did a in division trade there, which is really out of the ordinary here. So this is going to be a team. They already know they're in the rebuild. Should have brought Mike Richmond back on to ask him about it. Just ain't got a chance to talk to him. Been so busy here. But anyways, Colin Coward's saying there could be a possible playoff sleeper. I'm not that high on them. Again, I think there's a chance Daniels could get a little banged up here. So I'm thinking right at the over and under. They said it's going to be FanDuel's got it at 6.5, and I got them at 6-11. They'll be a fun 6-11. There's 2 games better than last year. They were 4-13. Okay, so we shall see, Owuku Saki. All right. So anywho, let's see what we got here. Did I actually put them all together? The NFC East 13-4. I'll give that extra game to the Eagles. Give them the benefit of doubt. In first place, Dallas 9-8. They're above 500, borderline playoff team. I'm going to have to look at some tiebreakers when I finish the NFC. 8-9 for the Giants. That they're going to be. It's good. That's typical NFC East. All right, it's all jumbled together, and then Washington in fourth place at 6-9. Okay. Who could it be now? Bum, 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 bum. Always thought that the guy Eddie Money sang that song, but it's a band called Men at Work. Lady corrected me on that at work the other day, and I had to look it up on the phone. Yeah, it's Men at Work, not the funny movie with Charlie Sheen and Milo Estevez. It's a band in the early 80s. I think they're out of Australia somewhere. Okay. Atlanta. Set the standard for Atlanta. It's a blessing to be free, according to T.I. Town I was looking at, possibly relocating, but I think I'm leaning more towards the south. If I do, it may stay in Nashville. I don't know. Nashville's growing. Nashville. Nashville got a new coach, too. We'll talk about the Titans later on this week when I get into the AFC. Raheem Morris getting his second stint. I want to say he started with the Bucks, he was like 33. He was over his head, a little bit over his head, a lot over his head. Knew he was going to be over his head. Rebounded, became an assistant under Sean McVay. Had that defense rocking and rolling there for a little while. With the limited talent at the Rams, other than Aaron Donald, they like to go cheap at defense. I mean, I know I had Ramsey and Donald, but everybody else is a bunch of guys there for the most part. But he brings over Zach Robertson, I want to say from the Rams as well, to run this offense. They go out and get Kirk Cousins, kind of a controversial move there, paying him a lot of guaranteed money. Then with this drafting with the 8th pick of Michael Penix there, and everybody thought they was going to go defense. Big insurance policy for the management there, and Raheem Morris, in my opinion, picking up that quarterback. Now, their offensive line, pretty good last year. Remember, Bijan Robertson really looked good for a rookie, and no quarterback throwing him the ball, bouncing around from mediocre quarterback to mediocre quarterback. But they're about a top 10, 5th, 6th, depending on what day you look at Pro Football Focus offensive line here. And they added guys like Justin Simmons to that secondary. They're not going to be a bad team at all. A.J. Terrell there at the cornerback. Jesse Bates there with Simmons. Very good safety tandem there. Pretty good team at home, I tell you. 9 offensive and 8 defensive guys. And the guys that they brought in are going to be pretty good additions there to this Falcons team. So FanDuel's got them around 9.5 wins. But their schedule, putting a lot of time into this, breaking this, the problem with Atlanta, even when they've been good, they've always had problems on the road for some reason. I don't know what it is, but I do got them winning opening night against Pittsburgh, opening day, Sunday. This Sunday, they're going to beat Pittsburgh Sunday. But they got to play at Philadelphia on Monday night. Then they got to play Kansas City. That's a bad one, too. They got to play the Chiefs on a short week. So they're going to start off 1-2, in my opinion. They bounce back against New Orleans. They got Tampa. They got 2 divisional games back-to-back. Tampa at home on a short week. Thursday game, that heavily favors the home team there. I'll give them that. But then they play at Carolina. Carolina's off a bye week. I'm giving them a nail there, okay? I got them losing to the Saints at the Saints because it's close to their bye week, and they haven't had one. And November 10th, they got a late bye. That could be good, though. That could be good if you're healthy. I got them losing at Denver because this week it's November 17th. That's the week after that. But then they got that late bye. But they're playing the Chargers after that. But it's at home. I got them beating the Chargers. And, got them losing to the Giants off of a short week. I do not like teams that have to play road games. They had to go to Las Vegas on December 16th on Monday night and then fly all the way to Atlanta. Then they go from Atlanta to East Rutherford, New Jersey, where the Giants play, and they'll play a short noon, 1 o'clock Eastern game. No, wait, that is at home, but still it's a short week. I've actually got them losing that one. Got them at 9-8. 9-8. Keep that in mind, okay? Panthers. Now, Panthers got Dave Canals, and the more I look at how good that Baker Mayfield's career year last year from Dave Canals. Really impressed. Read some of his stuff on the X app. Got to thinking about it. And I think, this guy may work miracles with the Bryce Young there. I know this team was number 1 pick overall. Of course, the Bears got their pick, but they were 2-15 last year. Moved off their coach. But they did add Deontay Johnson there to that, and they got a couple other receivers there that they're going to be able to throw to here. Adam Thielen's a year older, but bringing in Deontay Johnson. They drafted Xavier Legit, and I want to say Mingo. I'm looking for this guy that they drafted last year. That they're trying to get him more involved into the offense here. It may have been Tommy Tremble that tied in there at a Notre Dame, but either way, they're a growing team, okay? And they got a fair defense led by Derek Brown there at the defensive tackle position, all right? So overall, I think they're going to be one of those teams that you just cannot overlook them. I'll put it this way. I got them beating Kansas City when they play November 24th, okay? You say, why? It's at home. It's off of a November 17th bye. And Kansas City had their bye way late. And then they got to go play at Carolina. I think Carolina's going to look at that game like their Super Bowl, kind of like the way the Raiders did last year when everybody laughed at that, you know. So they're going to be a spoiler team, you know. They're going to be a spoiler team. Overall, I got them going a feisty 6-11, and they're probably going to be in it could very well be a 8 or 9 win type of team, you know. Got a feeling it's going to come together. Nobody's really looking at this team. Now, if Bryce Young gets hurt, but then again, they've got a pretty good backup there, I want to say. Yeah, they got Andy Dalton there. So you can be careful of the team that nobody's looking at that's had high draft picks a couple years in a row, you know? But anyways, and I know they have had to trade some of them to get Bryce Young. So keep an eye out for that team. Interesting team there. Okay, let's move right along in the South. Here, Dennis Allen, another guy on the hot seat for the New Orleans Saints here. They got a new offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, the son of Gary Kubiak, comes over from San Francisco. They were 9-8 last year. I picked them to win the South. They let me down. Tiebreakers and everything. Tampa wins it. Then they go and win their home game, and then they went on and pushed Detroit. You never know who's going to be hot when. Getting hot at the right time. But they do have a promising left tackle. I do like that rookie they got out of Washington. This guy could really, Talise Fuga from Washington, I thought maybe, or from Oregon State, I thought maybe Tennessee may get him. But they end up getting him. They've got a fair defense there. You still got guys like Alvin Kamara. He is in no trouble technically. Not this time around. Chris Olave, Derek Carr with the new. So there is a chance this team could go and win this division. They're still very much in it. Okay. The over and under, Vegas is not in love with them. It's 7.5 wins after winning 9 last year. 9 offensive, 11 defensive. But they do have an older team, folks. They do have an older team. I started looking at their schedule at Dallas, then Philadelphia, at Kansas City. They got to play at the Chargers. They got to play Cleveland. I got them losing the Cleveland game. They got to play the Rams. They got to play at Green Bay. Pretty tough schedule there for the New Orleans Saints. I got them going 7-10. There's a good chance that the ownership there could simply clean house. You know, very good chance here. Now, of course, they could go 10-7. It's really up in the air like that in the NFC South. But I'm going to say 7-10. And she's probably going to go, I think her name's Miss Benson there that owns it. Probably going to go offensive-minded head coach, in my opinion. This magazine, by the way, they've got Tampa finishing in first place again. Another team that's got some older players here. Mike Evans, 32. He's 31 years old, always having hamstring injuries. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't get banged up again this year. And, of course, Chris Godwin, been on and off, hurt the last couple of years himself. They lose their offensive coordinator, Dave Canals, here. Is Baker Mayfield going to play at a high level 2 years in a row, even though I love Todd Bowles. I love Todd Bowles. I'm just not so sure about that. Like Lee Corso would say, not so fast. Not so fast. So I'm just not. They bring in this guy, Leon Cohen, here from the Rams, former Kentucky offensive coordinator. They did catch a few breaks at the very end last year, caught fire at the right time. Don't see any of that happen this year. Not saying they're going. I predict they didn't get the first overall pick last year. That didn't happen either. But I think that this is probably also a 7-10 team. They take a step back without Canals, and I've got their record in here somewhere. I've got Atlanta squeaking in there. Somebody's got to win it. Somebody's got to win it. Got Atlanta there sneaking in there at 9-8, okay? And I got New Orleans by tiebreakers finishing second at 7-10. Tampa loses the tiebreaker. They're third at 7-10. And then the Carolina at 6-11 here. So the Atlanta Falcons, with that offensive line, with the help on the defense, could they be better? Could they win 11 or 12 games? Yeah, sure. Yeah, the average game in the NFL, folks, is about 4.5 points. A lot of these games will just come down to a few throws in the fourth quarter, a late turnover. You know, they're a lot closer than what the box score says. Okay, so that's who I've got. I've got the South, the North, and the East in the NFC. I'm going to do the West tomorrow, and I'm going to start the AFC tomorrow, and whatever breaks, I'll take a little bit more time on it because I won't be doing the college games. So if you like the show, share the show, okay? Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow. We will go over them the same time and same place here on the Real Sports Scope. Good night, everybody.